Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Bah humbug.
It is the festive season, as Tim is so subtly alluded to with his greeting. And we are here today for our second of two Christmas episodes this year. And we have an odd one. Tim came to me with a little idea. He said, "Have you ever heard of Bloodbeat?" And I said, "No, Timothy, tell me more." And turns out it is a little co-production between the US and France.
Love when they get together.
Yes, which is set at Christmas. And what says Christmas to everyone? I know. Samurai. Samurai says Christmas to everyone. Needless to say, it's a weird one. We'll start spoiler free for whatever that's worth for anyone who's curious. And we'll give you a warning before we go into the spoilers. But yes, we're here today to talk about Bloodbeat from 1983, which is about a young couple named Ted and Sarah who come to visit his parents at Christmas time in Wisconsin, which is, I mean, I wasn't looking for this information, but I did see in the trivia they did shoot in Wisconsin, so it's not one of these weird.
Thank God.
we'll pretend that this random rural place in France is.
That's Minnesota. That's not Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, there's super noticeable difference between the two. For unless you happen to know the areas so well that you're like, no. That forest line, that is no one state over. I'm not buying that. Not buying that for a second. So, yes, that's what we're going to talk about. I didn't even get to the plot point, which is the spirit of a samurai or something starts terrorizing people and killing townsfolk. That's the other main thing that happens in the plot. So, we'll get into it as we do.
If Ted and Sarah had a baby, what do you think they would name it?
I feel like you're building to a joke, and it's annoying me that I can't see what the punchline's going to be. But go on, Tim, what would they name it?
I think Ted and Sarah, they would name it Tara.
I didn't see that coming. I'm not. Is there more of a point to that?
No, it's just
that was the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, you can tell Sarah or Tara next time you record.
I'll do that, Tim. I'll bring it up. I'll say, Tim had a joke that he really wanted you to hear.
It's funny.
I think
it's
like oh, how do you go?
It's like
yes.
Your parents, Patricia and Dieter.
Yeah. That's my parents' names, of course. How could I forget? Silly me. This, I guess, the first thing I'll say about this, since it is a Christmas episode that we're doing here, is that this is set at Christmas. I would argue that this is not super Christmassy.
Seconded.
Like, I guess that 'cause most horror movies that are Christmas horror movies tend to like flaunt it. They tend to like have a title that's got a pun, or at the very least they really oversell the Christmassiness of the movie on the poster or something. Bloodbeat, of course, doesn't sound Christmassy, and it is set at Christmas. They're home for Christmas. There's a Christmas tree. They talk about presents for about 30 seconds. I think you see like some lights on the outside of the house. But other than that, the plot really could be happening at any time of the year. So I think we have to acknowledge that right away, that it's not the most Christmassy Christmas horror movie that we have watched. So
no, it's not.
we'll get that out the way. So you're onto a winner, Tim.
Yeah.
When you look at the cast list at IMDb and only the top 5 names have photos, right, next to their names.
Yes.
But notably, all 5 of those photos are all from this movie. So I clicked on all 5 of those names to check, see how prolific their careers were. And Terry Brown, who plays Gary, was the only one of the 5 that had any other credits other than this film. And it wasn't an impressive list. You know, he was like cop number 2 in Copycat in 1995. So not like
course.
You know, not a storied career with lots of heavy hitters or anything like that.
Well, still more roles than I've had, so I'll give him that.
I guess that's fair. More roles than I've had as well. Not trying to be an actor, admittedly, so I think that maybe counts for something.
Sure.
I'd like to think that I'd do a little better if I did put my mind to it.
Okay.
And really wanted to be an actor. Maybe I could do better than Terry Brown. No offense to Mr. Brown.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see if he's offended. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Well, I'll send your headshot to a casting agent and I'll see what they think you can do.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I mean, I heard they're looking for a new Bond.
It's gonna be one of those reviews, isn't it? One of those reviews.
Internet.
So, I guess I'll just ask Tim the question. I don't know what else to say to preface this one, to be honest. I don't want to spoil too much. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, Tim, how did you feel about Bloodbeat?
So I was. This is one that's been on my radar for a little bit, maybe
2 months.
No, I've been wanting to watch it for at least a year or two because I think I just randomly came across it on Shudder and because it's been on there for a while, and yeah, it is one of those movies where you read the description and it's like, oh, a family, or not family, but a couple is traveling to their family's house for Christmas, and they start being attacked by, you know, a vengeful Japanese samurai spirit, and like you just hear that description and like, oh, like how has this movie escaped me my whole life? Like I immediately must put this on, and yeah, so and it's one of those ones where I just like I always put on my list, you know, when it's like streaming, and then I think for like the last couple of years, I you know, haven't gotten around to watching it by Christmas, and it's, you know, once it's past Christmas, it's like I don't want to, you know, I'll wait till next year. So I think actually like maybe the last year or two, I think I started to watch it and then just ended up getting bored by it. So, but obviously since we're doing it for the show, I had to stick it out this year.
It's a good sign. Just, you
know. I really hate to say it, but yeah, I was actually super disappointed in this. The premise sounds amazing. Yeah, I wasn't expected like, you know, some hidden amazing piece of art or anything, but it sounds like a super fun, you know, over the top cheesy B movie. You know, that I was just hoping would be crazy, and you know, I'd really have a fun time watching it. Instead, I thought this was such a snooze fest. I was like, there are definitely moments where, you know, things start getting crazy, and those are really fun and entertaining. But especially like the first half of the movie or so, I thought was so slow, and the characters are so uninteresting, and like you're saying before, it's not very Christmassy. Like, you know, like if there was at least maybe some more like setting stuff where, you know, it was like snowy and it had more of a Christmas vibe, maybe that could at least hook me in for the season. But again, there really isn't anything like that.
It's arguably a more realistic Christmas because there isn't snow, sure, and it is a bit more low effort. But
yeah, very true. But yeah, I mean, I really hate to say that I just thought it was really dull, and a few bright spots here and there where, you know, the cheesiness does come in and my head perks up and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm having fun. But I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of few and far in between with this. And also it's one of those ones where it's just like, I don't know, just like the, you know, I hate to say it because, you know, there are some like low budget B movies that I really enjoy that I think are very, you know, captivating. This is one of those ones though where it's just like, it feels so low budget, just like, you know, the way that it's shot and sounds just kind of takes me out of it because it just has this like dull vibe to it all around. So I don't know, I just feel like I found a lump of coal in my stocking or something. Like I was I was hoping to open up this big giant present on for Christmas, and it'd be a PlayStation 5 with all the bells and whistles and a little VR helmet, and instead I just got like a just like a dead rat.
Well, that's a comparison. I might, no matter how I feel about this movie, I might call that a little harsh.
Sure.
all things considered.
I mean, I enjoy this more than a dead rat. I'll give it that.
Yes,
but
yes.
For comparison's sake.
And more than The Boy, obviously, because that movie's terrible.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I do. No, wait, that's a different question. No, wait. Yeah, I do not feel as negative as you do. Shockingly,
Shocking.
not that I think it's good, because I wouldn't say that, right? But I think there was enough weird like wannabe art house to like how this was shot. Like there was so many little weird moments. Like even if the movie wasn't being weird from plot yet, I actually think there's a lot of stuff in the first half that made me kind of laugh or go ooh, or like
interesting,
and in different ways, and like weird little techniques they were using, or how serious they were taking it, or so in some cases just how they tried to like build these like tense suspenseful moments out of something that felt like nothing really happened, but the music was trying so hard to make it feel like it was the most like intense moment ever.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was kind of giving me a little bit of a chuckle. So I would lean more towards, I actually think this is a very worthwhile watching weird movie with definite like highlights and places. It gets pretty crazy towards the end. There is some bad acting. So the mother, Kathy, I think she is a horrendous actress. I'll get that out there right
Shots
now.
fired.
I'll get that out there right now. She has just that cadence in her delivery, that kind of monotone. Like I'm sounding concerned and worried, but somehow speaking in monotone kind of performance that is just very effective. I.e. not. And so I'll say that. I will say I definitely agree that the sound is a bit weird at times. There was definitely multiple points in this movie where I just didn't hear what characters said, because it almost goes into like mumblecore mode at points, except it's not. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just
Sure.
like the music's either too loud, or there's a scene where like the sheriff's there and they're like picking up a dead body from a crime scene, and there's an entire conversation between Gary, the sort of the stepdad character who's not married to Kathy but is living with Kathy, and I did not hear a single word between him and the sheriff this entire scene. It was just mumbling and like under the soundtrack, and I don't even know if there was music playing actually. I may have just been like really like Ricky does. See you next time. Yes, bye bye.
Samurai.
Yes. Well, given that no one witnessed a samurai at this point in the movie, I'd be very impressed and suspicious, even dare I say, if
you can assume.
you can assume
It's Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, I think of Wisconsin. I think samurai. So yes, but
You
I wasn't
know what's like truly crazy though.
was twist crazy, Tim.
All right, so earlier that day, I watched this yesterday, and earlier in the day, I had a friend who I hadn't seen in a very long time, and he was house sitting for some people near me, and it was his last day, and before he left, he wanted to come over and just hang out and catch up for a little bit, and that friend's name was Gary.
all this was building up to you have a friend named Gary.
Yeah, so like I don't know. When I was watching this, it was like, oh, I was hanging out with Gary earlier today. I'm watching Gary.
It's not an uncommon name. I mean, I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay, but I mean, how many times have you spoken to someone like in person in real life with a particular name, and then later watched a piece of entertainment where the character also had that name? Like, wouldn't you think that's a little odd? Wouldn't you think the universe was trying to tell you something?
I feel like characters named Tim have shown up in movies many a time on days where I've spoken to you, and bizarrely, I've never given it a second thought.
Well, I mean, maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. Your ears got too much wax in them. You're not listening. Which what I don't like. I don't understand how are you supposed to clean your ears now? Because you're not like growing up. It was always you use Q-tips to like clean out your ears, but now they say you're not supposed to put Q-tips in your ears. So I don't like. What are you supposed to do?
That's cotton buds for people in the UK. Just to translate that. Well, I actually still use them, but like you're not supposed to stick them in your earlobe, but I use them just to, because your ears are kind of moist when you get out of the shower. It's just a nice way to sort of dry all the nooks and crannies of the ear. But I don't stick them in the actual ear, itself, which I think is fine.
Okay.
But people are worried that people are going to stab themselves in the eardrum.
Oof. Yeah.
Which you shouldn't do, obviously. So just
No.
Be wise, be careful. And why are we talking about this, Tim? We have a very interesting film to discuss, and you're sidetracking us into modern day ear maintenance.
I think a lot of our listeners would be interested to know.
Oh dear. Yes. I don't think it's as dull as Tim does. I actually think there's enough here to make it interesting. Not as a good movie though. I should point out it's definitely like a weird failed thing, but I don't think it's a dull weird failed thing though. I think there's enough going on to keep it interesting. So take that high praise for what it's worth. But I shall be, I guess, playing the role of defense on this podcast.
Okay. All right.
Yes. For once.
I wish I had that optimism, because I had high hopes. I thought, again, I was really looking forward to it. And again, it's not like the worst thing in the world. Like, I'm not saying like, this is
The Boy.
No, the Boy's great. Of course, it's not going to reach those heights. But, I was hoping it would at least be like, just give me a little something more than what it did. And yeah, I don't know. I like, especially like a lot of that, like that stuff early on, I just really didn't care about it. Like, like you're saying, like there's bad acting, but to me, it's like, it's not the kind of bad acting like in the room or something where it, I find like much more interesting and entertaining. It's just kind of like normal bad acting that again, just kind of bores me. And by the time that we did start getting to like cooler stuff with like, actually some kills and weird, crazy psychic stuff going on, like I just felt like tuned out of the movie, unfortunately.
Okay. I mean, it's a bit unfair to compare the bad acting to the most entertaining bad acting of all time.
Sure.
I never said I enjoyed the bad acting though. Right.
I was just making a point that like you're saying.
Honestly, the moments for me early on that were entertaining with the acting, or with the characters, I should say, was less the performances, well, less the dialogue anyway, and more the way characters would just stare really intently at something. There'd be these moments where they just zone out and stare at something, and the music would ramp up, and the camera would track into whatever they were staring at. Like, it does that a few times, and it's really intense, and that to me was like, oh, this is entertaining in a kind of silly way. So it wasn't so much the line delivery, which is what makes The Room mostly so funny. Also the fact that Tommy Wiseau is an alien and doesn't understand how human beings speak, but that's okay. So
is it weird that like all the flashback scenes in the Chucky TV show, like he just looks like Tommy Wiseau?
That did occur to me. Yes, the first time I saw young Charles Lee Ray, I thought that's Chucky Wiseau is what that is. That's exactly what I thought. So I guess we'll get into the spoilers then, so we can actually talk about everything that happens in Bloodbeat. But I think if you like weird movies, especially weird movies that think they're going to be like an art house film, if that appeals to you, I think you'll get something out of Bloodbeat. But just don't expect an actual good movie. But
sure. Yeah, I mean, give it a shot. I think it was like 87 minutes, so it's not going to take too much time out of your soul. And the especially if you're looking for, we love Christmas horror movies, but like, there's a decent amount of them, but you kind of just watch the same ones over and over again. Your Black Christmas, your Christmas Evil, your Silent Night, Deadly Nights. If you're looking for one you haven't seen yet, again, it's not very Christmassy, but maybe it'll tickle that itch.
Tickle the itch.
Yeah, the Christmas itch.
Also, I'll say the modern version of it does look very nice. Like, for such a weird little low budget movie from the early 80s, it looks really nice in HD. Like, I don't know how much work went into it or if it was just very well preserved, but it is 4:3. It was shot in 4:3, so that does stick out a little bit for the time period, but it does look very nice.
Yeah, I didn't realize it, but I think at the end of the movie, they did a quick little logo for, I forget if it was Vinegar Syndrome or
I think it was
Severin.
I think it's Vinegar Syndrome, because I think they did the Blu-ray.
Yeah, so that would make sense because they usually like do a really good job of restoring these kind of like old movies or like these kind of like hitting cult movies that they always do a good job putting a lot of love into them, making them look good and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of unnatural just how good it feels. Like something that should be on a shitty VHS tape, and like, it looks pristine and high quality. This is very weird, but that's
it should be like something some old guy in a cave gives you.
But hey, one of the marvels of modern home media is getting weird stuff like this, looking like, I don't know, like Paramount spent millions of dollars remastering it. So yeah, Bloodbeat. Full spoilers from this point on. What else to do? And start at the beginning. The opening of the movie is a hunter. Turns out to be Gary, right? The
of course it does.
The not officially stepdad of the couple, but
the stepdad of our hearts.
Basically stepdad. But he's just walking through the forest.
Not to be confused with the stepfather. Scary.
He's walking through the forest with his bow and arrow, and he's hunting, right? The characters in this are big into the hunting. And this
much like Laura Croft.
Did you say Laura Croft?
Yeah.
Lara Croft, Tim, come on.
Laura, yeah. That's what I said.
It's literally your name with an L.
My name?
Yeah. Sorry, Tara's name. It's Tara's name. This is what happens when I record an episode right after I woke up from a nap, okay? All right.
Continue.
Thank you. So, this takes ages building up to him, and I thought it was weird that it never shows you what he's aiming at. It just kind of builds up, does that like cinematic thing where it builds up and it cuts to the next scene right he's about to let go of the bow, and it's just him arriving home and he's got a deer, and he strings it up on the tree. It's
not a reindeer.
He strings it up in the tree. We're introduced to Kathy, his partner, and the following scene is, I mean, I don't feel like this ever really became relevant at any point in the movie, the fact that he wanted to get married and she didn't, but we get a scene where he says, oh, the kids are coming by soon, how about I tell them that I'm going to marry their mother? And she's like, no, we talked about this, Gary, I don't want this. And they have like a bit of an awkward moment.
Gary.
And it's just like, okay, I guess that's a plot point. That'll be something that comes up later. Maybe like she'll regret not marrying him right before he dies or something later. Nah, it never really matters or factors into anything. or maybe like the fact that she doesn't want to get married would tie into the spirit or something. Like maybe she was married to the descendant of a samurai or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Like
Yeah,
I thought it
you
might
never
become
know.
relevant in some way, and it never really did. But hey,
Not enough weddings in horror movies.
I guess
It could be a fun thing.
I suppose. So her son and daughter arrive, and then the son, Ted, has brought his girlfriend Sarah, right? And it's kind of awkward where at first, like Ted, not Ted, sorry, the Gary's like, oh, who are you, right? So there's two weird things that happen in this scene. One is that when the mother comes out of the house and sees that Ted has brought a girlfriend, just like stares at her with these daggers, like in the Kill Bill where it'll like zoom into the eyes and go ding 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 ding, right? It's basically kind of like that without the zooming in and without the music, just like staring, and of course this makes Sarah, the young girlfriend, kind of uncomfortable. But then Sarah has kind of a similar moment where she turns around and sees the deer, like who's like the carcass, which has been like cut open, and like Gary's doing, he's working on it. He's gutting the deer, and she has like a similar moment where she looks at the deer and she's like, and I don't know if it happens yet. No, I think the first time it happens is actually when they go upstairs, and Ted takes Sarah into the guest room where they're going to stay. And the first time that the camera, like they put like a filter on the camera for like a weird moment where it turns like purple, and I wasn't sure what this was meant to signify at this point. I guess I can understand it now, having seen the whole movie, but it's kind of like she has like a flash of the room in purple, and it's like this weird kind of like, and it's like, oh, we're getting kind of art house here, we're getting weird within camera effects and the opticals and whatnot.
She turned on detective mode.
She turned on detective. Yes, that is. It's a very good way of putting it, actually. But that scene in and of itself is kind of a bit of a trove for weirdness. I thought between this effect and like her like thinking there's something weird in the room and feeling like, because the mother Kathy, she like paints, so there's lots of like weird like just abstract paintings about the house. And she just feels weird because the painting's like, oh, the mother, she feels like she's in the room with us. This is weird. So they've just arrived at his mother's place, this little farmhouse, and they go upstairs just to unpack. And Ted thinks this is the perfect time to have sex for some reason, even though it's the middle of the day. And,
Hell yeah.
and his mother's still awake downstairs. Gary's walking around. His sister, who's also an adult, is like walking around, and he's like, let's have sex. So he starts kissing her, and he's kissing her neck, and at one point she gets distracted and she looks around and goes, oh, that's weird, I feel weird. And then he keeps kissing her though, and she kind of gets back into it. She's like, yeah, okay, we keep going. And I'm thinking, this is weird. Like, this is a weird time to decide to have sex in your parents' or your mother's house. Like, middle of the day, doors still wide open, I think. Like literally any point, anyone in the house could walk in. Like, it's really weird.
Hey, maybe that's his kink. He likes the danger of it.
Yeah, well, apparently he also likes to see how many times he can ignore the word no before finally giving up, because she gets so weirded out and feels like the mother's presence is in the room, and it cuts to the mother, and it's like she knows. It's like the mother can tell they're about to have sex. It cuts to the mother painting, and she's like,
Well,
my boy's about to be touched by some little slut. As you can see it in her face.
yeah, I mean, I guess we can kind of spoil it, but I think like roughly half the characters in this movie seem to have psychic powers.
Well, I mean, by the very end, sure. I mean, it's mainly the mother and I guess Sarah. Both seem to have some kind of psychic ability, which is it's kind of what starts to come up here, is that they both have weird psychic moments. The mother more knowingly, seemingly, but yeah, she starts saying no and pushing him off, and like he just kind of ignores her for ages, just kissing her neck, and eventually she has to start shoving. And what really got me is that in the next scene, which I think is the same day still, like they're all going hunting, and he's like dragging her along. She's like, I've never hunted before, I don't want to hunt. And he's like, nah, come on, be fine, just hold the gun then if you're going to take part, just be around. That awkwardness of like being dragged along to a family activity that you have no interest in or wanting
Especially
to do.
when it's killing stuff.
Yes. But there's a line here where they're in the woods and she's like, oh, I'm sorry about before, Ted. And his response isn't like, no, I'm sorry, I took, like 20 no's before I finally stopped and had to be pushed away. His response is, that's fine, doesn't matter. It just keeps walking. It's fine, doesn't matter. It's his response to that. But sure. So I don't know. There's enough weird things and the weird little flashes of like color and weird effects, and I was like, okay, does the mother actually sense what's going on upstairs? Does she have a psychic bond with her son, and can Sarah somehow sense this? Can she sense her aura in the room? I don't know. I was pretty intrigued. At this point, Timmy. I don't know what your problem is, Mr. Hoity-toity over here. But
I mean, I don't think it was as interesting as you're painting it to be. As when I was watching it, it didn't hook me as much as that.
I don't think I added that many flourishes, so I'm not sure how I'm painting it any other way than what it actually was, but sure. So yeah, there's a big scene where it likes to do this thing. Do you know what it almost made me think of? You know how in Zombie 2, Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2, of course, Zombie Flesh Eaters, aka Zombie, we reviewed it just earlier this year, in fact. So that has this thing where it likes to do the slow pulsing music, right? As like, zombies are getting up and walking towards something or whatever. I kind of felt like the soundtrack here was kind of a little like that, in that it had this sort of like pulsing drum beat, and it was like it was building up to the kill. It was building up to them finally like finding and killing a deer. Which is really to say that I felt like they stretched their runtime a little bit here early on by like having this last kind of like a while. But eventually they find a deer, and like the entire family who's went hunting, like Ted, his sister, Gary, also some other guy with a beard who looked exactly like Gary, and I couldn't tell them apart. Like they're all aiming their either guns or bows at this deer, and it's building up to like a fever pitch where clearly Sarah's going to like stop them. She's going to yell out and make them miss or something, and sure enough she does. Which, when we actually think about this later on, the context of like what's going on and where the story goes, I thought this would be again a more prominent moment or idea. Like
the deer comes back and saves them in the end.
No, I was everything that's happening in the first half of this movie is kind of triggering Sarah, right? Because we find out at the end that she is like the reincarnated spirit of the samurai,
right.
So I thought, we're going to find out more about the samurai's backstory and why he's so averse to like killing animals, and like he was done wrong, and that's why he's a vengeful spirit who's out to. And I thought it was going to tie in directly to Kathy, and that's why there's some weird images and other things later, which we'll get to. But I don't feel like they ever like tied in Sarah's aversion to this killing and her reaction here to anything that happened later, anything we learned later. I never feel like it linked up with anything to me.
Maybe like that they're like two opposing spirits. Like, she's very against killing, but when she's a samurai, she loves killing.
And for the record, she's not possessed by the samurai spirit. That's very worth pointing out. She is not like. She's still clearly with the others, but later on when we see the samurai out and about doing things. All that said, she does have a link to the samurai doing things, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so she actually freaks out here when they get mad at her for like interrupting the hunting, and she runs away. Ted runs after her, and she ends up running down like through the forest and down a road, and runs into a random guy who is bleeding and like sort of falls like into her, and that's why they call the police, and this guy's taken to hospital, or to the morgue. I actually can't remember if he technically died or not, but either way, this was where the mumblecore part of the movie kicked in, and the sheriff was like, what did he say? Was that? Speak up, Mr. Sheriff Man. What's going on? That's part one of the movie, basically, right? That's phase one.
Phase one.
Well, phase two is important. Phase two is, well, other than a weird awkward game of Monopoly, whilst like Kathy, the mother, and Sarah are both sitting on the couch side by side in just awkward silence. Phase two is that during this awkward silence, Sarah starts to feel something when the samurai makes like the first kill, and it's kind of POV. You don't really see the samurai yet. It's just kind of like POV, and the character, I think it's the other bearded guy who was with them hunting before, and he turns around and screams, and like, you know, it's more implied that he gets killed than anything. I think you see like maybe I'm lying there with some blood coming from his neck or something after, but Sarah excuses herself, goes back up to the guest room to lie down, and then we see, you know, more POV of the samurai. Like, it introduces a couple in a house that obviously are going to be victims, you know, typical horror movie stuff. So this is really where it turns into a horror movie, because we actually get stalking and we get build up to kills and things like that. Because up until this point, it was, other than some weirdness, it was mostly just kind of awkward art house wannabe drama, right? Up until this point. This is where it kind of pivots into horror a little bit more. So as this is happening, as we're introduced to this couple, and it's this, you know, middle-aged couple where the husband is demanding the wife go make him tea, and then when she comes back with a tray of tea, and you know, it's not just like a cup of tea. Like, see, people in the UK, when they ask for a cup of tea, they get a cup of tea. They just ask them, do you want milk or sugar, and that's it. And they'll bring back she brings back a tray with a bowl of sugar, and you know, like the whole works, right? And then he goes, where's my orange juice? As if he always gets orange juice with his tea. Is that a thing people do? Do people get orange juice with tea? I don't know. I'm uncultured. I'm uncivilized. I don't know these things.
It sounds disgusting. Honestly.
Well, I'm assuming
it doesn't seem like two tastes that would go well together.
Yeah, I don't think they're mixing them. I think the idea is that you, I guess, follow up the tea with some nice cold orange juice.
Yeah, but you know, you're still gonna have that tea taste in your mouth, and then you get that orange taste invading. Yeah.
Also,
I don't know.
This is a weird point to make, but like I think the orange juice she was making was from like powder. She was like putting powder in a glass and pouring water in, and I was like, is this like instant mix orange juice? What is this? I guess it's not that dissimilar from diluting orange juice, but that comes in liquid form. I've never seen orange juice be made with a powder before.
I mean, isn't that what Tang is?
I never had Tang.
Yeah, that was like a popular thing in the US for a bit.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit before my time, but yeah, I never did orange juice that way. But I mean, we did Kool-Aid with the powder.
Yeah, Kool-Aid wasn't a thing here either. So this is a cultural thing. Making the only thing I can think of that's made from powder here is like instant milkshakes. Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, that sounds pretty good, actually.
Yes, Nesquik. Yes, I'm not overly fond myself, but
I like a good milkshake.
I like actual milkshakes that are made from ice cream and stuff. Yeah, so this couple, just these awful characters, and it's like, okay, so they're about to die. The wife dies first. Samurai kills her. In fact, the husband has a whole extended segment. The husband has this like ridiculous slow motion jump out the window, and then even though this is the town he lives in, so presumably he knows where to go to get to the police station or somewhere else that you would go for help. And he's got a vehicle. He's in a van. He somehow like stops like a clearly closed like shop or whatever, tries to like ask for help. There's no one there. He gets back in his van. He drives some more, and would you believe it? He drives into a ditch and then is running outside, and he only just makes it to our main character's house and like dies right outside the house via bow and arrow, and like dies like sort of, and they hear the noise and they go and check, and he's like standing there against the door all bloody and stuff, right? Whole extended sequence. But that's not the important stuff of this scene. The important stuff of this scene is that it's constantly cutting back to Sarah in bed.
Oh yeah.
With all I can describe, because at first I was like, this feels slightly sexual, and I'm not sure if it's intentional. It definitely is intentional, given like it keeps getting more sexual. But
Oh yeah.
the way I would describe it at first is that she's having both a nightmare and an orgasm at the same time.
Nightgasm.
And yes, where she's sort of like asleep, but she's making noises. But as the scene goes on, she starts like thrusting her pelvis like up into the air.
Yeah.
And she's sort of like holding the bed sheet like in between her legs, as if she's humping it almost. And when the samurai kills, that's like the moment where she starts proper like yelling out in climax. That's like the money shot. She's getting off on the samurai killing people. And it's at this point where I'm like, what is this movie? What is going on? She's like, she didn't want to kill the deer, but now she's like getting all turned on by the samurai killing human beings.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would definitely agree that this is where the movie did start to pick up for me. Like all this stuff I think was actually generally good and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, once the samurai starts killing people, I think it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
and it does a few art house things here or there. I do actually think there's a couple of genuinely creepy shots here or there. There's one shot of like outside the house in the dark where you can still see the deer carcass swinging from the tree that I actually thought looked really eerie. It looked like the sort of shot you might have gotten like in like this is maybe like maybe it's just because it's 4:3, but it made me think of Evil Dead. Like I could almost see like a shot of the cabin with this like deer swinging in the dark. It had a similar kind of low lit quality to it, but like it looked creepy. Like this is the odd little moment. But then things go crazy. So when they see this guy at the door, the house, and this entire time Sarah just stays up in the guest room. No one like really goes to get her until like all this supernatural shit starts happening, because the phone catches on fire, so no one can call for help. All of the windows and doors start like just banging like immediately, and then Gary, poor Gary, gets like tons of food thrown at him in the kitchen, and like not like like cooked food. We're talking like just like it's like a bag of flour hits him in the head, and then I think there's one or two tins, but it's mostly soft stuff. But it knocks him out eventually. He falls. I thought he was dead actually at first. I thought, man, what a way to go.
I really like to see that. Actually, that it was very funny, and like I feel like I don't think that they were like sponsored by anything, but
oh sure,
I do feel like they did like have some really like close up zooms on like the brands and stuff. Like I was pretty sure like he got hit with some soft drinks, and like there was like a Pepsi and stuff there, which I just thought was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to do close-ups of all the stuff rattling on the shelf, because that's what they do. Honestly, the product placement that I noticed more than anything though was actually Sony, because at the start of the movie, when it's like sort of teasing that he's about to kill something in the woods, there's a lot of close-ups of his headphones and his like little cassette Walkman. And it's all Sony branded, so I mean, I was like, did Sony really pay for advertisement in this? I find it hard to believe, but apparently so. I mean, at the very least, they risk getting sued by Sony anyway. Like, we're associated with a movie like this. How dare they? So,
can you get like sued for that though? If it's just like if you buy the thing and it's like, like I don't know. I always wonder what the line is, because it's like, sometimes it seems like there's movies like that that just like don't care, and they'll just show like whatever, and then like sometimes you watch like these huge big budget movies that can obviously afford anything, and like they really go hard out of their way to like not have specific brands. Like I do wonder if it is like actually something you could get sued over, like, and if you're obviously doing something like, oh hey, Pepsi kills people, like something like that. I can see that they wouldn't want, but if you just have the product in the thing, does that matter?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so let me preface.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, let me preface this with that. I think part of what you said there's probably got something to do with it. Like, just having the logo be visible on something that it would be visible on. Like, that said, though, you do often see, like, like MacBooks, like they'll put like a poster or something over the Apple logo. So clearly there is an issue with it. I know that famously the fourth Highlander movie, they had to blur out some later versions of it because at one point there was a GVC like logo on like a billboard, and they had to just blur the whole, and it's like it's a big thing that's behind the main character at one point. So it's like a really like awkward like big thing they've blurred out in one scene. And I wonder if that's just because it is just a big advert, effectively. I do wonder if like if it's just the title or logo on a device like something like a TV or something like that, like is it a big deal because it's just kind of happenstance, like because they all have something there. You can't like unless you go out of your way to like hide it. Like most, like maybe some cheap TVs like won't have a logo there, but like almost every TV will have their logo. Unless it's like one of the ones I guess now that like don't have like a bezel because they're trying to be like ultra sleek and thin, so there's no room for it. But
yeah, I don't know. It just always like stands out to me because I feel like especially like with stuff like comic books. Like I feel like a lot of times I'll read like some indie comic that'll just be very real blunt and like, hey, like let's go to McDonald's or something. But then like you'll read something from Marvel or DC and it's like, hey, let's go to McBurger. Like they. Like, I don't know, and I just always find that, like, weird that it's like, oh, sometimes it seems like the more money you have, the less willing you are to actually put a real thing in your thing.
Just playing it safe, perhaps, in most cases, I imagine. Especially mentioning something, you can mention something, like, I mean...
Yeah, it exists.
Yeah, like, you can mention McDonald's, and even if you say something negative about McDonald's, as long as it's, like... It's okay because it's a movie character who has like a weird conspiracy theory. Like it's fine. As long as that disclaimer at the end of the credits about it being fictitious is still there, you're covered legally, I believe. So, yeah, that's the. Other than that, I don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah, crazy scene. So eventually Ted's like, shit, I need to go try and save my girlfriend. And he runs up to the guest room, and there's like a blue, and it's like, it's really like the effects in this movie are really just kind of like color filter circles over parts of the screen, and it's like there's like a force field on the door that won't let him in. So they eventually, he just kind of gives up after like a couple of tries. But him and his sister,
now he gives up.
Him and his sister end up hiding in the closet, and it's actually the mother, Kathy, who eventually just kind of saunters into a little like art studio room. And just like holds out her hands and starts saying something to the effect of, "We do not fear you, spirits, leave," or something. But her hands like glow. There's like a sort of like little like light circle that comes out of both her hands as this is all happening. So this is getting kind of nuts at this point. It's like, okay, the mother clearly has like psychic powers, can sense stuff. She felt like something weird about Sarah as soon as she showed up, and that's why she was acting so strange around her. And I genuinely thought, because there's hints either here or later on. It's probably later on actually, because I think it's when you can actually see the samurai walking around. Because you've definitely seen the samurai by this point, but only from like behind. He's not in the house, like sauntering around or anything like that. There's a point where there's like a couple of random shots of like a nuclear bomb going off, right? Presumably, in Japan. And I was like, wait, first of all, very different era than samurai times. I mean, that's notable. Yes. But part of me was like, wait, have the descendants of Kathy's family like committed crimes against like the samurai's family?
Jeez.
Like, or not descendants. She's the descendant of people who have committed crimes. You know what I mean? Ancestors. The ancestors of Kathy. Is this like a sort of family thing that's went through generations? Because it kind of felt like it was specific. Because it almost felt like Sarah might never have been triggered had she not come to this house and be psychically probed by Kathy. Because I think like earlier on when she tried to have a nap, she like had a vision of like samurai armor, and she like opened a trunk in the room, and there was a katana and some armor and stuff. Which I forgot to mention because it was such a quick little thing, but yes. So I wasn't sure. I was kind of intrigued by what it was trying to imply here. by the time the movie ended, I kind of realized that I don't think it had much to say, but it did kind of feel like maybe it was trying to get at something for a little bit with some of this stuff. I don't know.
I got nothing.
I don't know, but so it works though. The spirit stops terrorizing them for now, and they wake up Gary. They get Sarah out of her room, although she's been having a rollicking time in there. And for some reason later that same night, Ted, who we've established at this point, gets horny in appropriate times. So after he helps Gary get back up, and they're kind of just and the phone's like I said, it was on fire. It just randomly caught on fire earlier, so it's just kind of charged. Okay, we'll have to wait till the morning to go get help. So let's just all go to bed or whatever. And we see various characters in bed. Ted goes to after he puts his sister to sleep and stuff, and puts a bandage on Gary or whatever. He just goes into the guest room where Sarah is still asleep. It's like he doesn't think that's weird that she never got up. She never got woken up by all of the chaos, because it was really loud. There was banging everywhere. People were screaming. The whole thing was chaos. But Sarah never got up. Instead of thinking that's weird, maybe I should ask if she's okay, or check, or ask if she heard anything. I'm just going to get into bed and start initiating sex. That's his plan. But unlike before, she gets really into it this time and gets on top and starts riding them. And I'm like, okay. So clearly she's more in the mood now, because she's been having all these weird erotic connections to the samurai killings. Yes, okay, makes sense. And it's right around here where the samurai kills a couple of red shirts in the forest. Just, the samurai's going through the forest, kills a guy who's going for a piss, and then kills the other guys at the campsite. And when this happens, she starts having more intense orgasms whilst having sex with Ted. So she starts and obviously Ted, because she's on top, and she starts just kind of sort of I don't know, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for?
Describe sex to us.
No, what's the word when you you go kind of don't make a joke. You know what I mean here.
Okay.
When your body goes kind of stiff and you kind of start almost like you're having a seizure, but you're
like you're erect.
No. So don't make the obvious joke, you bastard. No, you're
like seizing.
You're you're going stiff, but it's sort of going on and off, and you're kind of.
I don't know, I don't know. Seizure is the only thing I can. Think of.
The word. I just keep the word vibrating. Just keeps playing in my head, and it's not that obviously. You're. Ooh. Doesn't matter. The point, right? We've established that she is. God damn it! I'm going to think of this word 2 hours after we've done recording. I'm going to be so mad at myself. Anyway, so yes, she's reacting very strongly, and all I could think is, man, Ted his ego must be going wild right now. He must be thinking he is the best lay that ever lived, because she is acting like a wildebeest right now. The way she's reacting. It's oh man, I'm on my game tonight. I'm doing good work. I'm doing the Lord's work right now. This is one satisfied woman right now.
Now,
yes.
Is this maybe why she was more hesitant to do it before? Maybe
gyrating. She's gyrating. That was the word. Gyrating.
Oh, okay.
Continue, Tim. Continue.
Maybe she knows that by having sex, she's going to unleash the spirit or something. So maybe is that why she was a little bit hesitant before or something? I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't know what to say. Clearly at this point, the spirit of the samurai is kind of taken over. The connection's so strong, and
sure.
I guess you could argue that the samurai is making its way towards the house, and now that it's gotten to the house, it's going to. Well, it's not there yet, but the next day when actually the armor's brought into the house, that's when the connection is complete, and it's found its way to her. So it's not even like Sarah herself is evil or knew about this or anything. She's just kind of taken over eventually. By the spirit of the samurai, which I said earlier, she wasn't possessed. I mean, she kind of eventually, like, actually becomes the samurai. We see her in like samurai makeup, putting on the helmet, very late in the film. But that's like after all this happens, where like the samurai are, because the next day for some reason, like, so Gary goes to take the body into town of the guy who was outside, and the other characters just like Ted just goes hunting as if like nothing happened last night. I think the mother starts painting, and I don't know what Dolly, the sister, was doing, but I think she's just out hunting as well. You can't let these
things control your lives. You know, you have to go out and live. You can't.
The previous day, a man died on their front door, and then tons of supernatural shit happened. Right, like, and they're all just like having like this weird normal morning of like they seem to otherwise would be, but then eventually the samurai like attacks, like comes after the sister, comes after Dolly, and like Ted and her run from it. But this is where we start getting this weird like POV shot from the samurai, where it's like this weird red and black like filter. It's like one of these like early computer filters, but back before anyone should have been using any such things. It looks really, really old school and tacky, but hey, maybe that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
But the samurai's also giving off like a blue glow, so there's like a sort of blue glow that hits them when it gets close. The whole thing's a bit goofy, but eventually, like, Gary like hears them screaming, runs out, and like hits the samurai, and it just sort of crumbles, and it's just the armor that's left. It's like, oh, it's just the armor now. So they bring it back to the house. The mother and the sister both want to burn it, and Gary's like, no, it's evidence. It's evidence. We have to give this to the police. And then some spooky shit happens. Kathy kind of realizes that, I guess, Sarah is the descendant or the reincarnated spirit of the samurai, and she puts on the outfit. Sarah, that is, puts on the outfit. We see her with like samurai makeup on, which I actually thought looked kind of cool. Actually, it was kind of like, oh, like she's now like fully accepted this kind of thing, and she has kind of like a weird. I think this is where we see the images of the nuclear bomb and stuff, where she's kind of having this like face off with Kathy, and Kathy's trying to fight her psychically. Samurai Sarah says a bunch of lines. I really didn't hear what any of them said though, because it's like there's like a voice effect on her, and like there's music blaring at this point. So I didn't really hear any of the dialogue. I think it was just along the lines of, you can't defeat me, your power's not strong enough. I think it was stuff like that, but like I couldn't hear any of it.
I had the captions on, but honestly I can't remember what they said.
I can't imagine it was that interesting then.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Yes. So poor Gary comes in, and like the samurai just like shoots him with an arrow, and that's him. He's dead. Gary, we hardly knew you. Yeah. Played by Tim's friend Gary. Tim's
I had to call him up after and make sure he was okay.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah. That's exactly what you do. And then, sure enough, Kathy is not able to fight back, and the samurai kills her. And that's when Ted and his sister come right into the room, and despite the fact that they barely acknowledged or believed that their mother had psychic powers, both put out their hands, and like as a team, because they both inherited their psychic powers, both start to have glowy hands and like sort of like psychically attack the samurai together. And during this last segment, there's actually a really famous piece of classical music playing. Yeah, that one. That's like playing through all this last section, and it's really like loud. It's over the top of everything. Their hands are glowing, the samurai's glowing, and they win and they walk out, and the credits roll. That's basically it. I mean, I feel like I'm almost short selling the last like 30 minutes of this movie, because it is actually pretty crazy. There's all these little things with the way it'll cut to close-ups, or the way it'll use color filters for just like quick shots here or there. I guess I think I took the first time the filter showed up when Sarah walked into the bedroom as like a psychic flash, which I guess it kind of still is, but I guess that was her like connecting to the samurai. But because she didn't have that flash until she went to the house, I genuinely thought, oh, it's going to turn out that the samurai is connected to Kathy, and that's why it's all triggering while she's here. But then nothing ever really seemed to come of it. Like the one moment being when the samurai was like coming towards Kathy, and we see all these flashes of the past. Like, is that just Kathy reading the samurai's like history from its mind, or is it like the samurai sort of saying, "This is why I'm going on a path of vengeance, at least against humans"? Because, like I say, it never really is important that Sarah was against killing a deer earlier on. Like, you would think that would play into maybe like a struggle where like she's trying to fight the samurai because she doesn't believe in killing or something, or maybe it would just turn out to be like a human vengeance thing, and like maybe this samurai likes animals and doesn't like the killing of deer.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And maybe that's why the samurai is quite happy to butcher this family, because they're a bunch of deer killers. I don't know.
Maybe it's a sacred deer.
It was the killing of a sacred deer. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly.
Very good. Very, very witty to me.
It's another movie.
I'm aware. I feel like I've rattled on explaining plot here, Tim. Give some thoughts on all this craziness at the back chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, all this back stuff, I actually did enjoy. I mean, I'm kind of with you. Where I do agree. It's a little hard to kind of explain. Like, yeah, if you're not seeing it, but I mean, once it is getting a little crazier and has like, yeah, people like coming out with these like psychic powers, and like, the hands are starting to glow and all this, and then and you're actually getting some good glimpses of the samurai, because you don't really see it that much throughout the movie. This stuff was was definitely piquing my interest more. I just wish maybe I had cared a little bit more about the characters, or had some more interest throughout the movie. I think maybe this would have hit a little bit harder for me. I still liked it, but unfortunately I still wasn't like too thrilled. But this stuff is cool. I'll give it that. I do like how just kind of weird and crazy it is, and I do like that they don't really try to explain anything. Like, I don't know, I feel like especially with modern movies, they're very focused on having to come up with all these dumb explanations, which, I mean, you probably would want at least maybe some vague explanations here, but I kind of like that they're just like, we're not really gonna tell you anything, you'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't need everything explained, but I definitely would have liked a little bit more of a hint as to like a few things here.
Yeah.
But as it is, it's just kind of like crazy and weird enough that I think it's. I think all that stuff is pretty entertaining. I think it's an interestingly shot film. Sometimes it comes off as a bit like wannabe art house, or a bit like, a film shouldn't have gone mad kind of thing. I did check. This is the only film that the director's directed.
Interesting.
It hasn't even been involved in that many other films in other capacities. Wrote one other film, wrote and directed this. This is Fabrice Ange Zafratos. There you go. Fabrice Ange Zafratos. Very French name. Obviously, I probably butchered the pronunciation. But like,
oui.
I think it's just like. And maybe the reason why I got more out of this than you is because like a lot of the entertainment I got was from like the weird filmmaking that kind of went along with it. The shooting style, the weird like attempts to build suspense in moments, which I don't necessarily think worked, but I at least kind of like appreciated like what it was trying to do. So I thought I found enough of a curiosity in that stuff that even the early part of the film wasn't that dull for me. I was kind of like that kept the first half entertaining to me, and then the second half is where the plot gets kind of crazy and all the weird supernatural stuff happens, and the samurai kills and all the rest of it, and the psychic stuff is like really where it goes like just out the window, and like, okay, this movie's just kind of crazy. And Like someone had this wild idea of a reincarnated samurai spirit attacking a family on Christmas, and the family has psychic powers. Why did Kathy not want to marry Gary? I don't know, but
that's scary. Come on. Hey, maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll keep that in mind and try and watch it again. Maybe I'll get a little more enjoyment out of it. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to be too negative. Like, it's I think there's still stuff in here that's compelling and worth checking out. So it is a weird enough movie where it's like, well, you have to see it at least once. I'd probably say to people. I had high hopes, and I kind of wished it really, like, this was one that really knocked it out of the park for me, instead of just being like, oh, okay.
I got a little bit more of it. Not a good movie, but certainly an interesting one, and not one that I don't think I was ever. There's definitely some slow stretches where it's maybe trying to like do the whole like art house suspense thing a little bit too much and not being successful at it. But other than that, I can't say I was not engaged in some way or another. Now, admittedly, very rarely was it because of probably what the movie wanted to engage me in, but that's part of the finding the gems in the horror movie pits that it is anyway. So.
For sure.
Hey ho. So
ho,
yes.
ho.
So yes, ho ho ho, indeed. So yes, the children of Kathy have psychic powers too, apparently. And we're able to harness them enough to fight the samurai spirit, despite the fact that they never really seem to acknowledge. Actually, no, that's not entirely true. The daughter did acknowledge it once. The daughter did say at one point, "Don't try to read my mind, Mum." There was a scene. So at least she did acknowledge that her mother has some sort of psychic ability. Okay. There was one moment. I will concede. Still though, they're like, our powers combine, twin powers activate, and I mean, not twins, but yeah.
Might as well be.
Might as well be. All right, I guess we should rate the movie. Timmy, what would you want to give Bloodbeat?
I'll. I was kind of waffling. Between which, by the way, it kind of makes me want to have a waffle, but I was kind of waffling between like a 3.5 and a 4.0, which might sound pretty harsh, but I mean, what can I say? Unfortunately, it didn't work for me as well as I wanted, but I mean, again, there's enough cool stuff in here that, like, I'm not gonna go super low, give it like a 2 or something. Like, once it did get more zany and had, like, flying food and like weird old dudes jumping out of windows, like the stuff like that is definitely entertaining. Enough that I'm not gonna go too bad or too low, and since it since it is Christmas and it seemed to bring some joy into your life, I'll go ahead and give it the 4.
So generous.
Yeah. It's definitely not a good movie. It does have some cool, cheesy, over the top stuff, but yeah, I wish it worked better for me. What can I say? But hey, who knows? Maybe I was too tired or in a bad mood when I watched it yesterday. So maybe I'll give it a chance some other time and try to keep what you said in mind. Maybe I'll appreciate it a little bit more. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm going a bit more positive. Obviously, not surprising given the conversation. But I'm going to slap a 6 on this bad boy.
Wow.
I thought it was entertaining enough. I thought it was weird enough. I thought it was, again, not super successful, but I had enough of a unique time that I will happily take this over a lot of movies that we've watched where I'm just kind of, it is dull and ineffective, whereas this was really interesting and ineffective and
Sure.
Occasionally funny, occasionally like, whoa, this crazy plot, like... There's enough going on here, so maybe I'm being a little generous, but I'm in the festive spirit. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a Christmas horror movie that much. You'd probably still watch it at Christmas because it happens to be set at Christmas, but it's not really like a huge factor. It doesn't really get brought up that much. So, yes. Did you like the scene where the siblings were playing Monopoly and the long-haired cat was just lying on the Monopoly board like the entire scene.
Yeah, you gotta give it up for the cat.
Yeah, Cat was a great performer in this film.
I've definitely been in that spot before where like I put some books down to read, and, I'm getting all set, and then like I turn around and then I turn back and the cat is sitting on them, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait until they get up.
You just have to wait. Yeah, the cats are in charge. We accept that. So there you go. That is Bloodbeat, our second Christmas episode of the year. Not super Christmassy, it turns out, but it's Christmas, so it counts. It counts.
It counts. What do you want from us, you jackals?
Yeah, and it was actually Tim that picked this one, so it's his fault anyway.
Hey, you enjoyed it.
I did, but just in case of those complaints that it's not Christmassy enough, I'm just letting them know that you're to blame.
Yeah.
So
take it to HR.
Yes. So Tim's going to post for the thumbnail. So let's get that out of the way first. All right, 3, 2, 1, pause. I don't actually know why you're doing that, but I'll just.
I was gyrating.
Gyrating, okay. Yes. Yes, gyrating. Yeah, my description wasn't perfect for it, but yes, gyrating was the word I was looking for earlier, just to really say that. And she was gyrating against those sheets, and then she was gyrating on top of your boy Ted. So yes. So well, I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers, if I'm remembering what the format of my outro and all that stuff is. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Christopher Moy, and David Brown. They are Patreon producers for the month, so Merry Christmas to them. But you can support us for as little as $1 per month over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Get some bonuses for your trouble, early access and stuff like that. There's the monthly bonus episode's not back yet, but it shouldn't be too long before that's back. So go and have a look and see if you're interested and help keep all the content coming. And of course, you can support us for completely free by simply hitting the like button, subscribing, dinging the bell for notifications on YouTube, or giving us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. All those things do help and help spread the show out to more people. And of course, find us on Twitter at Screams Midnight. So there you go. That's all my plugging, I think.
You got anything coming up? You gonna be doing a Christmas stream or end of the year stream or anything?
Yeah, there'll be a Christmas stream the week of Christmas. Either the Monday or the Thursday, I think, before Christmas. I'll be doing a Christmas stream. So that should be fun. I think we're going to watch Scrooged, starring Bill Murray, amongst probably some other things. So that's
a movie I've never actually seen all of, but I've seen bits and pieces.
Interesting. So we're going
interesting.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Obviously, I think me and Tara on the Ace right now, we're doing like a 70s month. So all the movies we're doing this month are all from the 70s. So well, there's no Christmas sci-fi movies, so we just yeah, there's not. We tried. We really tried. We did a bonus episode. We did a bonus movie for Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, our first Christmas on the show, but that's it. That's the extent of them. There's not a lot. I guess it just doesn't mix with Christmas the same way that horror does. But
interesting. Yeah,
it is what it is. So yeah, no, it's 2021's been a weird year. Obviously. I mean, the actual gap in episodes, like for the audience, was about 4 months, but for us recording, we stopped recording in January and then didn't record an episode again until September. So it was a very weird year for Screams After Midnight behind the scenes, but it's good to be back. It's been a fun couple of months being back on the show. People seem to be happy and enjoying the episodes.
Okay.
What?
Oh no, it's good. People are enjoying them.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. We give them content and they like content and they thank us for content.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yes. Potentially at Patreon specifically, if they would like.
That's good, yeah.
But otherwise, yes. So yes, this is the last episode of the year. We'll be back with something in January. Who knows what? I suspect we don't know yet either, but there'll be something. And have a nice Christmas, everyone. Hopefully you've enjoyed the return of Screams, and we'll see you for more in 2022 as we cross over into episode 500, which is very, very soon. Exactly. So, this has been Screams After Midnight. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. Have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you next time.